to use this. 𝐒𝐮𝐻𝐳 Black. What's going on, everybody? Yo, what a moment at the end of Red Ranger in Another World this week. I thought it was a dope moment. Now, I would have hoped that, just kind of based on the previews and stuff, I would have hoped that there would have been something a little bit more traumatic that happened with the Red Ranger basically deciding to become the Black Ranger. And there's a couple of things that I want to note here. One, I would have loved to see, again, like I said, something a little bit more traumatic. I would have assumed naturally that maybe Yihidra was in danger or something, or maybe she got injured, and that's what spurred the transformation into, another Ranger. That's basically what would kind of force Tougo's hand to be like, okay, I need to overcome this to save my girl. But instead, it ended up being a thing about bonds once again, which, definitely is fitting of the show. It's definitely fitting of Tougo as a character. It's definitely fitting of the story that's built. So I don't dog on it. I'm not disappointed in it. Well, I'm disappointed, but it doesn't rub me the wrong way because, again, it definitely flows within expectations, and I thought that was a really cool moment. Now, the biggest question that I had with this was, it seems like Tougo has known that this is something that he's done in the past. So when he's been affected or afflicted by this, like, it looks like this stems from hatred, from like maybe from like just the negative feelings. This is where his next transformation comes. It definitely sounds like it's not the first time, because he definitely had that black band-aid ready to go. So he knows that this is like an extra, like, this is like that charted water that you shouldn't go to kind of thing. So I definitely really had a lot of questions about that, and I really like that because it spurs, like what caused him to go through this before? How did he find out about this different transformation? How did he find out about the negative feelings of the Black Ranger powers before? And I definitely really like that it brought up those questions. Now, I don't like that it brought up the questions, as we only have one episode left, because we probably won't get any legit answers, and they're probably just gonna be like, well, that's just Power Ranger Sentai stuff, so just chalk it up to silliness, so we probably won't get any answer to it, which kind of sucks, but I do like that it did spur those questions. Another question I had too that I was thinking about, as I was, when they were taking on Aziz or Azuz or whatever, and they overcame that extremely easy in my mind. There was a lot of buildup for that fight, and I felt like they overcame it not a little too easy, but I felt like they wanted to get to the demons, very quickly. So the Aziz stuff, I felt like, kind of came to a close. You had naked Rania going, honey, and a big naked hug, and then boom, fight's done. I felt like that came to a close too easy. But as they were fighting, one thing I was thinking of is, how Tougo, the Red Ranger, is summoning, well, the Red Ranger Isekai into this world, right? He either died or got teleported, but he was either teleported by bonds or he was legitimately died and he just got Isekai into this world. One of those two things happened, but regardless, he left his previous Rangers, his previous bonds, his previous partners back in the world that he came from. So I was thinking, as they've been summoning the Zords and they're using the whole Ranger group bond powers, I kind of wonder what's been happening in the old world, because, like, you would assume that if he summons the Zords in this world, that they're unsummonable in the other world, unless they're two separate, same power, but two separate, like, like universes that, like, like they could be summoned in two different places at once because they're not actually the same. Again, random thing that I thought about before, but I didn't really, like, verbalize. I was like, I was really thinking about this episode. I was like, man, what if they, at this same time in the universe clock, what if they need to summon the Zords in the other world right now to face, I don't know, the lovey, anti-marriage group or something? What would happen? So just interesting food for fact. I also really love this episode, the demon. I don't know what his name is, but the blue hair demon. I don't know if I caught what his actual name was. But I love that the demon, his whole shtick, his whole thing is really weird, that he wants to apparently marry his mother. Not Abu Dhabi. I don't know what the other one's name is, but the one that tricked Aziz or Azuz I love how his whole thing was that he wants to marry the demon queen, and I love how Tougo was like, "Yo, wait a second, fam, ain't that your mama?" And he's like, "Well, you know how every kid wanted to marry his mom." I was like, first off, no, but second off, like he's like, "Yo, but you've been carrying that for 1,000 years, bro. That's a little weird." And he's like, "I don't care, lightning." And I thought that was a funny moment too. And yeah, so interesting stuff overall. I think the episode was pretty good. I think that the like I said, the Aziz fight, and how it just nicely came to a halt. I think it was just a little too nice, and I think it was just a little too convenient. I think they wanted to get to the demons too fast, which I don't blame them. We have only a 12-episode runtime. It would have been nice for them to maybe, elongate that a little bit, just because, again, I felt like it just came to a nice close. And then what they didn't cover was Aziz making up with Rania, with him giving her powers back, or her, her equipment back, and kind of how that ended up falling out. He did shake hands with the Afro elf and the other elf leader, so they didn't, show that to us. But I felt like it was just too fast. I feel like the whole episode should have been leading up to the big moment at the end, and then give us one more, give us an episode 13 to transition this to the demons, and then, then the Black Ranger stuff. Now, I'm not mad that we saw the Black Ranger stuff. I just think that it just feels like we took too long, and then we went too fast, if that makes sense. Like, it feels like we've been on this little storyline for too long, but then it feels like they ended it super fast. So it kind of feels just, the pacing just feels off to me. So yeah, anyways, my friends, we have one episode left of Red Ranger. I still think this is the highlight of the season. I love the Yihidra fan service. I love that they showed like a little chibi version of her. I love that her bonds are like splattering all over the place when it comes to Tougo. I love how she admitted that she loves him. I love the bond and relationship that Yihidra and Tougo have. I just think is just top tier, and I really love that quite a bit. All right, friends, I'm going to see you guys on the next episode and the last episode of Red Ranger. I appreciate you guys being here. I'll see you guys next week for the last episode of Red Ranger, and I'll see you in the spring for brand new anime. Have a great day. Black Ranger out.